Alright, so this first video I'm going to do a inspection on the rods and show how I check the diameters there, and then we'll get on to the next step. But basically I'm going to do a series of videos to show how I figure out bearing clearances. I just did all the machine work on a 302 for my nephew, and he was kind of curious how I do the bearing clearances. So I figure I'm going to show you, and so here it goes. So what I have are 8 brand new SCAT connecting rods, and then every engine I do has a spec sheet. So the big end housing bore needs to be 2" and 239 to 2" and 239 and 8/10. So I set the bore gauge to the 239 just because it was easy, and then when I use the bore gauge on the connecting rods, that'll give me, I can take the difference, do the math problem, and I know exactly how big the rod is. And when I'm inspecting a rod, what I'm looking for is dimension this way, and we're 8/10 big, so we're right on the big end of the spec. And then we'll check them this way, and of course these are SCAT rods, and I really haven't had any problem with SCAT, and that some bitch is round. So that one's 8/10. That one's 8/10, and it's round. Double check here. So you go all through them and check them. And normally I'll check balance too. On these ones, they've already been to the balance shop, and they're all dead nuts. So maybe that'll be a different video. I've got a set of mismatched 302 rods that I'm going to put into my engine that I'm building for my car, actually out of the leftover engine parts from the nephew's build. So basically we're just going to take all the leftover parts and we're going to build a 302, and to show that they're not bad parts, actually, is kind of my point. But these are all measuring right at 8/10. Well, on the bore gauge it's 8/10 big, but that puts us right at our large end of our spec on our connecting rods. Oh, that one might be a 1/10 smaller, but nothing to sweat. And that's how I check the rods. So now our rods are checked. So now the next chunk, I'm going to measure the crank and the bearings, and we'll come back with that, and then we'll show how I do the math problem. It's really simple, but I think it's more precise than plastic gauge. Plastic gauge is kind of open for interpretation because you're smashing a piece of plastic in there and not really you're holding a piece of paper up to it to see how wide it smashed that piece of plastic, to see what your bearing clearance is. And so we had some discrepancies there, building an engine several hundred miles away when he was doing his 302, and so I told him I'd show him how I do it. I don't think at the school, I don't think they had the equipment to even to measure everything and measure it accurately. So I'm just show him how I do it. So we'll come back to doing the crank here in a little bit.